Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our TEIS Extended Option Family presentation today. My name is Carly Carlton. I'm the Public Information Officer here at DIDD. And with us today, we have some of our leadership, who is Kara Kumari, our Assistant Commissioner of Communications. She will be leading our presentation today. And we also have our Assistant Commissioner of TEIS, Kelly Hyde, and the TEIS Director of Program Operations and Data, Amanda Schaefer, with us as well. Before we get started, a few housekeeping items. We do have an interpreter on for any families who may need those services. Her name is Angela Myers, and in just a second, I will spotlight her. So she should pop up on everyone's screens. But if for some reason you are on a different platform, you can go find her, and you should be able to spotlight her on your computer. As a reminder, please keep yourself muted through the duration of the presentation. If you do have any questions that pop up during the presentation, you can include them in the chat and we will review them at the end of the presentation. So we hope that you guys learn a lot about the TEIS extended option today, and I'm going to turn it over to Kara Kumari.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully the right presentation view comes up. Carly, if you can make sure and confirm for me that the correct presentation view is coming up when I do share.
Yes, it looks great.
Okay, let me just make sure to get. Okay, we're going to get started. All right, thank you all so much, by the way, for joining us for this extended option. My name is Kara Kumari, and I'm the Assistant Commissioner for Communications and External Affairs. This presentation is primarily geared towards families. Of course, we do welcome anyone to be on here to listen to what we have to say. And we will go through the presentation, and then at the end, we will have time for questions. If you have a question as we're going through the presentation, go ahead and drop it in the chat box already, while we'll wait until the very end to answer questions. If you've got a question, just go ahead and put it there, and then we'll go through those at the very end. As I mentioned, my name is Kara Kumari. I'm Assistant Commissioner of Communications and External Affairs for the department. I'm joined today by some of our TEIS leadership, including Kelly Hyde, our Assistant Commissioner of TEIS. Also, we have Amanda Schaefer, the TEIS Director of Data and Operations on here, and Joan Kennedy, TEIS Director of Program Implementation. All three of them will assist me in answering some of the questions at the very end. So we're looking forward to hearing what you all have to say. Really quickly, one of the things we like to tell folks is we have all these long titles, but what do the titles actually mean? These are the folks who are making decisions about TEIS, and that includes the TEIS extended option. So we're here to explain what the extended option is and to also answer your questions. So when we talk about today's presentation, we're going to do a couple of things. First, we're going to give a quick review. Where is TEIS right now? What is the service environment for babies and toddlers in TEIS right now? Then we're going to discuss what is the TEIS extended option and what does it mean? Very important for our families who are on here. We want you to know what your choices are. That includes knowing whether or not your child's going to be eligible. How will you find this out? You're going to hear a lot of acronyms that are going to be talked about, but there are going to be really two big ones, and we're going to break these down for you. IFSP and IEP. What are they, and what's the difference between the two? And then we're going to talk a lot about transition support. We did give a brief presentation to families back in June about this, and we promised, as we developed more information about how this process was going to go, that we would come back and give you another presentation. So this presentation will have some things that are very similar to that first one, but when we talk about the process of how we'll help you make that decision and moving forward with the extended option, we're going to have a lot more detail than we did in that June presentation when it comes to that time. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, what does TEIS look like right now? As many of you are probably aware, currently TEIS serves children from birth up until the age of 3. At that age of 3, that child will transition to either special education services in their local school system if they're eligible, or they can choose to access other resources in the community. So they really have two decisions as to how to transition after TEIS eligibility is over currently at the age of 3. One of the things we heard a lot of when DIDD gained oversight of the Tennessee Early Intervention System back in 2020 was so many children were getting into the program all ready to start planning for transition. Man, it would be really great if my child could have a little longer in this program. And so we were very thoughtful. We talked to our federal partners. We talked to our partners across the state about, is this possible? And what would this look like? And out of all of that feedback, we developed the TEIS extended option. And that's what we call this. So what is that? The TEIS extended option allows those current TEIS families to continue receiving TEIS services beyond the age of 3 if the child is determined eligible for special education services in their local school district. We are going to call it for this presentation special education services through the school district, but sometimes it's also called Part B eligibility. That's the federal term for it. So you might hear both of those terms being thrown out, but they do mean the same thing. Your child has been found to be eligible to receive special education services in the school. One of the reasons we wanted to do this is not a mandate. What we're doing is with the TEIS extended option, one of the key words is option. This is an additional choice for families to consider when they're deciding how they want their child to develop and when they decide what's best for their child as far as preparing for school goes. We wanted to provide another option for those families who really asked us to consider this. We're very excited that this new option is going to be available very soon. In fact, it's going to be available to families a month from today, October 15th, 2022. There are some things that will make a child eligible for this TEIS extended option. First of all, your child has to have a current individualized family service plan called an IFSP through TEIS. So your child has to be enrolled in TEIS with an IFSP prior to the age of 3. They also have to be determined eligible for school district special education services by the local education agency. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and how that happens a little later on in the program. Also, they must turn 3 on or after October 15th, 2022 to be able to be eligible for the extended option, because that is the day we're starting it. So if your child turns 3 on October 15th or after that date, they can be eligible for the extended option. For school district special education services, your child, in order to be eligible for those, your child has to be over the age of 3, and they also have to be determined eligible for school district special education services. When it comes to making that eligibility determination, regardless of what option you plan to choose, it is the local school district's responsibility to evaluate your child for eligibility for special education services in your local school district. So regardless of whether you decide to keep on with the TEIS extended option, or if you're leaning that way, or if you're leaning towards special education services, it is still up to the local education agency to make that eligibility determination for you. So if you're eligible for these special education services, you've got 2 choices. Your family can choose to receive services through the IFSP through TEIS, and that would be continuing to receive those TEIS services, or through an IEP, an individualized education program, through your local school district. I do want to say there is also a third option. You can choose to decline all services as well, but our presentation will focus on these 2 different choices in front of you. And we're not going to let you go through this alone. We understand that this is a big decision, and children, our child's development is one of the most important things we can do. So we are going to walk you through these choices, and we're going to do it over a period of time. First of all, before your child turns 3, we're going to do what we do now. We will plan for transition. Right now, just as they always do, we will start transition planning conferences. And your service coordinator, that TEIS service coordinator who's helped guide your services, they're going to continue to support you through this process. If your child is not eligible for school district special education services, your service coordinator is going to provide you with resources within your community and also additional options. So even if that eligibility is not there, your service coordinator is going to give you some of the other options and some of the other resources that might be out there in your local community that you can access for your child. Now, if your child is found eligible for school district special education services, you will, like I said, have the following options. You'll have either the option to choose the TEIS extended option, you'll have special education services in the local school district, or you can choose to end all services. We're going to focus now a little bit on what the TEIS extended option actually is. So if your child is eligible for school district special education services, your child can continue with those TEIS services that they're receiving now up until the start of the school year following your child's 4th birthday. So if your child turns 4 in March, you can choose to receive your services up until the start of the next school year. So for where my child goes to school, that was, I want to say, August 5th this year. So that would be the start of the school year. So even though my child would have turned the 4 in March, she would have been able to receive those services up until that start of the school year if I chose. These services will continue to be provided through an individualized family service plan. So that IFSP will continue. And all of the services your child receives today through TEIS may continue. One thing I do want to say is that that in this extended option, if there's not already a goal on your child's IFSP that addresses literacy and numeracy, this will be added. And when we're talking about literacy and numeracy, we're not talking about does your child read. We're talking about rhyming or reading to your child, numeracy, blocks and counting and those types of things. These can be addressed in a variety of different ways, depending on your child's individualized needs. Also, very, very important that families can choose to transition to the school district at any time during the TEIS extended option. So if your child turns 3 and you get a couple of months in to receiving those extended services and you decide it's time for your child to start experiencing life within the local education agency, you can choose at that period of time to transition to that local school district. I do want to stress, and we'll say it a couple of other times here, once you make a decision to transition out of TEIS into special education services in the schools, you cannot come back to TEIS. So you can leave and go to the school district at any time, but once you make that decision, you are unable to come back into TEIS services. So that is the extended option. Now we'll talk a little bit about school district special education services. If your child's eligible for these, you can choose to transition your child to special education services through your local school district when your child turns 3. Or like we mentioned, you can choose to take the extended option and then at any time after that choose to transition as well. The services through special education are provided through what's called an IEP, Individualized Education Program. There may be many of you that are familiar with that term already. And once your child transitions from TEIS to your local school district, as I mentioned, you cannot return to TEIS. We understand that there's a lot of different decision points and the child's journey through TEIS has a lot of stops along the way. And to help people understand what that looks like, we've created this TEIS pathway to really give the different options and the different the different places that a child, a family, the choices that a family may have. We do have a copy of this on our website, and we did put that link right there, but it does look just like this. So sometimes graphics help folks to understand what that path looks like in those different decision points, and we wanted to provide this to make sure folks really can understand how to navigate this process. We'll talk a little bit more, like I mentioned, about the IFSP and the IEP and what's really the difference between the two. So we'll start with the IFSP. This is the written plan for providing early intervention supports and services to an eligible child and their family. So this is what guides TEIS services, this IFSP. The real goal of an IFSP is to focus on your child. What does your child need and what does your family need, and embed those types of services and supports into the daily routines of a child's family. So as that child is doing the things they do during the day, how are we incorporating those services and supports so that they're able to be successful in those different types of activities that happen naturally in a home or in the community or in a school, an early childhood school. So those are some of the things that an IFSP really assists with. An IEP, as we mentioned, is an individualized education program. This is a written plan for providing special education and related services to students with disabilities. And the IEP focuses primarily on your child's access and participation in educational activities, with an emphasis on providing them in the least restrictive environment. So those are the differences between an IFSP and an IEP. And don't worry, this is not the first time or the first or the last time you're going to hear about this. It might be the first, it won't be the last. We really want to make sure our families have informed decisions when it comes to making these choices. So you will have access to a couple of different resources during this whole transition process. First, you're going to have your IFSP team, the people who are that help you not only help you draft your IFSP, but support you along the way in that TEIS journey. You're going to have a transition planning conference, just like we do now, talking about what that looks like to transition out of TEIS, either into special education services or into the extended option. Very important is we'll have a family notification document. This is a document that you'll be able to take back with you that has all of the different things we're talking about today and a lot more information. We really want people to be able to understand what are the differences between the two so that they can make an informed choice. And we're going, and this document does provide information about both options. A little bit more about that transition support. As I mentioned, the IFSP team. These are the folks that are going to be answering your answering your questions so that you can decide what's best for your child. In the end, it's not up to us. It's up to you as the parent to make that decision. But we also know that there are a lot of people that can support you in that process, and your IFSP team is there to help answer those questions and help you make that decision. I mentioned that extended option family notification document. That's what it's going to look like. And we're going to review this with you. Your TEIS service coordinator will review this document with you a couple of different times. We're going to start talking to you about it really early. We're going to talk to you about it at your initial IFSP meeting. And we're going to also mention it during the 6-month review and that annual IFSP meeting. The goal is that you feel very informed about your decision. So it may seem repetitive, but one of the things I've always found is sometimes I need to be told things a couple of times for me to remember them, much to my husband's chagrin. But we want to make sure that people feel empowered and informed to make their decision. We'll also talk to you about it at the Transition Planning Conference. And then we have it in bold here because this is a new meeting. We will also discuss it with you at the Age 3 TEIS Extended Option Decision Meeting. The Transition Planning Conference, so now we're going to talk about how this transition happens. Transition Planning Conference, that comes up first. First, we're going to talk about the Transition Planning Conference, and this is going to happen as it does now for all children. So regardless of whether you are Part B eligible, special education services eligible or not, there's always a transition planning conference out of TEIS. And this really occurs as your child approaches their 3rd birthday. We try to have these conferences within a couple of months before your child's 3rd birthday. And your TEIS service coordinator is going to guide you through the entire process. We also will invite a representative from your local school district to attend these transition planning conferences. And a family has a choice of inviting anyone they would like that can help support them to make these decisions and make this transition. You can also invite anyone you would like. I do want to mention that in order to be eligible for the TEIS extended option, you must have a transition planning conference with your local school district. So you will not be eligible if you decline to have a transition planning conference with the local school district. So I do want to emphasize that key point, because we want people to have all of the options available to them. After the transition planning conference, your local school district will be talking about eligibility. Your local school district will tell TEIS if your child is eligible for special education services. So there will be that assessment process. And if your child is eligible, TEIS is going to schedule other support meetings. And if you're eligible, your service coordinator is going to do the following. We're going to review that TEIS extended option document with you again. We're going to support you in your discussions about Part B services. So we're going to help support you in your understanding about Part B services and the eligibility determination with the local school district. And we'll inform you of the age 3 TEIS extended option decision meeting. Like I said, that is that third step, that new meeting we're talking about. We'll go into a little bit more detail into this one. Once again, so we're going to have a meeting. It's called a decision meeting, but I do want to say we won't expect you to make a decision at the end of that meeting. Some people are going to come in and they're going to be ready to make the decision, but this will be a meeting we will have to talk once again about that extended option family notification document. In addition, we're going to present the TEIS extended option decision form with the choices outlined, which include the TEIS extended option, the special education services in the local school district, or your option to choose to end all services. And like I said, we're not going to expect a decision at these meetings. You do have 10 days following the age 3 extended option decision meeting to decide. If you do not decide within 10 days, though, your child will exit TEIS and be unable to return. So after the decision meeting, you may come in and you may already know what you want to do. And if you do, that's great. But if you need some more time after having that meeting to think about it, we've got a 10-day window where we will you'll have the opportunity to consider all of the information and make your choice. But after that 10 days, if you haven't made a decision, we will have to exit your child from TEIS and you'll be unable to return. It also is during that decision point, you should not have an IEP. If you're still waiting to make your decision, you should not be holding an IEP meeting in that 10-day window as well. I also want to make mention of, when it comes to all of these meetings, the eligibility meeting, the decision meeting, ideally, we want to have those meetings together. We want TEIS to have and the local education agency to be able to have those meetings together. But in some cases, they may occur separately. It's really going to be up to the individual area, but ideally, we would have those meetings together. So where can you find more information about this? First of all, we have a TEIS extended option webpage where you can find all of the updates. We do have frequently asked questions on that site. We also have a one-pager about the extended document. That family notification document that we're going to discuss with you quite a few times is already up there. So if you want to start looking at that document, it's there for you all to take a look at. We're always updating, providing updates in TriStarts, which is our newsletter for TEIS, and we have the website below, so you can see that. Where you can find that information. So with that, I am going to see if I can stop sharing my screen. I'm going to go to the chat box. And let's see, let me go all the way up. Okay. Okay, if a child transfers into the school system from the extended option, will the school system have to complete another evaluation to consider eligibility for special education? I'm going to go to Amanda Schaefer on that one.
Hi, everybody. The school system may choose to conduct additional assessments, but they will not repeat the eligibility evaluation. Your eligibility determination that is made before age 3 when you are with TEIS and before you've made your decision will stand, and that determination will not change. However, the local school district may decide to complete additional assessments just for more information if you are transitioning over to the school system for services from the extended option. And that would just be to inform your IEP at that time.
Thanks a lot, Amanda. The second question, we're going to go to Joan Kennedy. Who is included in the IFSP team? Service coordinator and DT, or also the therapy team? Joan, if you'd like to take that question.
Sure, and that's a great question. The IFSP team is comprised, of course, of the family and then also the service coordinator, and then any provider that is currently providing services for that child listed on the IFSP. So that would include developmental therapy. It would include the therapy providers who are providing services. We want to encourage input and communication and collaboration with everyone who is active with that child and family to be involved. Thanks, Karen.
Thanks a lot, Joan. Amanda, I'm going to give the next one to you. Can families transfer the extended option to other TEIS locations?
Yes, if a family has chosen to stay with TEIS past the age of 3 and receive services through the TEIS extended option and they move to another county in the state, they can continue with the TEIS extended option just from a different point of entry office in a different district.
And then stay there. Also, how is equipment coverage affected? Do we still have a 6-month window that they will not be approved?
We do not have a 6-month window where they are not approved. That is not current practice and will not be the practice. So the equipment coverage is not affected. It will proceed as is.
Great. And stay there. Is the family notification document district specific? Will it provide details about local preschool options for the family, such as a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, peer students, available capacity, etc.? Amanda?
No, the family notification document is not district specific, and it won't be. Every local education agency, every school district has, they vary program to program, what's offered or what services look like. But so the family notification document, the purpose is to give a high level overview of the difference between Part C, early intervention services through TEIS, and what Part B services, school district services look like. That is meant to be general information. It is possible that families will be asked to make a decision before they have that specific information, because you do make that decision before your IEP, before you've maybe seen an IEP. In some cases, school districts may decide to provide more specific information for you based on what they know is available in the area in their school district. They're not required to do that, and the decision does have to be made before you see a final IEP.
Great, thank you very much, Amanda. If a family does not make a decision within 10 days following the meeting, would they also not be eligible for school services? Amanda?
That's not true. If a family does not make their decision, they cannot stay in the extended option. So if at the end of 10 days, if the family has not made the decision, then they would be still eligible for services through the school district. They would not be eligible to stay with TEIS. The decision form that will be presented to families at that decision meeting includes a last option that says, I need more time to make my decision. And the language under that option says, I understand that if I wait longer than 10 days, waiting longer than 10 days means I have declined the extended option. And then the family can choose to pursue services through the school district.
Great, thanks a lot, Amanda. Is there an additional service resource that would be available with the extended option to differentiate, or is it basically just you all being able to provide the service beyond 3 years old? Kelly, would you like to take this one?
Yes, so the difference extending out past the age of 3 into the extended option is going to be that numeracy and literacy goal that will be within the IFSP, but that also will be an IFSP team decision as to how they implement those numeracy and literacy goals for each child. So it will be an individual approach.
And then I'm going to go to you on this one as well. Just curious if you have a number or percentage of families that may be interested in the extended option.
And I will hand this one to Amanda.
We did conduct a preliminary survey, and I don't have the data in front of me, but I think it was upwards of 80% of families who are turning 3 after October 15th said they would be interested in staying with TEIS for longer and receiving services through the extended option if they are Part B eligible and have that option.
Okay, what information will I have about proposed special education services for my child before making a different decision? Excuse me. Go to Amanda for this one as well.
This will vary school district, meeting to meeting, family to family. So depending on how the meetings unfold, how close together they are, the level of collaboration between the TEIS service coordinator and the local school district, you may be in a situation where the school district has been at the meetings all along and is able to give you some detailed information about what may or may not happen with school district services. They are not obligated to do that and may not have that information available at that time. The way the extended option is laid out in IDEA regulations is that you do have to make that decision before you have all of that information. So the likelihood is that you'll know a little bit, but you won't know everything when you make this decision.
Okay, the next one. So the school district must take an eligibility done before the child turns 3. What if the child would no longer qualify for special education services? I'm going to take this one over to Kelly.
Yes. Yes, that is correct. So the school system will complete that eligibility determination before the child turns 3. In the event that there is a delay or the eligibility is determined late, TEIS will continue services in those rare circumstances until that eligibility determination is made. If the determination is made that the child is not eligible, the service coordinator will work with the family to provide additional resources that are available to each of in their area. And work with them on the transition.
Great. Thank you very much, Kelly. We got a question also. We are consistently told by service coordinators that equipment is not approved. Is there a written policy on this? We're going to take this one offline and Chastity, we will follow up with you on some information about this. But thank you for your question. Do we reach out to the school for eligibility or will our coordinator do this? I'll take this over to Amanda.
Your service coordinator and your point of entry office will be working closely with the school system in that county, and they will be in collaboration. As soon as you have your transition planning conference at that meeting or soon after, the school district will ask you to consent to that eligibility determination, and then they will know that they need to conduct that evaluation, and the TEIS point of entry office will be checking in with the school district weekly on the children who are on the list to be evaluated and checking progress. And in that, service coordinator will be in communication with the family on the status of that. Once the eligibility evaluation is completed, then the school district will communicate, will set up that meeting, the eligibility determination meeting with the family, and communicate with TEIS that determination has been made. So the family does not have the responsibility for making sure that these events take place. TEIS and the school system hold that responsibility.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Amanda. Any recommendations for families on how to make the best decision, RE, whether or not to go with the extended option versus going for the school district services, especially when we don't even know what the school district services might entail prior to making the decision? I'm going to go to Amanda for this one.
This is a very good question. We've received this question a lot, and because special education programs look a little bit different from district to district, it's difficult to answer at the state level. If I were a parent trying to make this decision, I would want to think about the services I'm receiving through TEIS and what I think is most beneficial. I would also want to consult my IFSP team on my child's progress in the program. And then I would want to talk to the representatives from the school system about what services children with similar profile are receiving in the school system, knowing that that doesn't mean that's what my child will receive. I think that's the homework I would do to make my decision.
Okay. All right. I do not see any more questions in the chat box. I'm going to close this out. First of all, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope this was educational. Thank you, Amanda, Joan, Kelly, Carly, and our translators for helping make this a successful presentation. We did record this. We will put this on our extended option page along with the slideshow so folks can take a look at this and make sure that they can review it at their convenience as well. So we look forward to chatting with you all more. And we are a month out. We're very excited for this opportunity and look forward to making this a reality for a lot of families. Thank you all very much, and we'll talk to you later.